Hey everybody, Corbin Hostler here, Brainstorm Brewery. I'm trying something a little different today. I've not done this before. This is completely off the cuff. This is a brain bite. This is something we're doing for Brainstorm Brewery here, where we are trying to put out some information on other topics in the world of finance, stuff that isn't necessarily worth making onto the cast in terms of how long it takes, or just a little segment, that sort of thing. So today, I'm going to talk a little bit about the finance of actually going to tournaments. So tournaments are very expensive. I used to be a grinder just like everybody else. I would drive 12 hours to do things, blah, blah, blah. So I'm just going to try to share some of the tips I have for this sort of stuff. And I obviously travel quite a bit now for work doing event coverage. So I want to just talk about some of the things I've learned over the years. So let's start at the beginning when you're actually planning and booking out a trip. So in terms of tournaments, it's best to have a schedule in advance. You can do one beginning of every month. You have somebody in the community do it. Figure out where you're going to go to. Step one, figure out if you're flying or driving. Now, it's almost always cheaper to drive in the sense that you can get into the car with a couple friends. It makes the road trip a lot easier. The hours fly by, blah, blah, blah. You have people to work with, play with, and you make great friends that way. You should always try to do that if you can. Now, that said, sometimes you need to fly. So if you're going to fly, what I suggest is always taking the cheapest flight within reason. You don't want to kill yourself and do worse at a tournament because you've, gotten up at 3 a.m. or whatever to get on a plane, or, had 17 hours of layovers or what have you, right? You need to be able to, there is a real cost to that sort of thing. And, if you're paying all this money, you want to be able to play at your best when you get there. And obviously that comes into all of the, don't go get drunk the night before, don't dehydrate yourself, all those things. Make sure you take care of that sort of stuff you've read before. But in terms of actually booking the flight, I suggest that if you're going to be flying a fair amount, you choose one airline. Now, I know it depends on how much you're going to fly, right? Because if you're going to go to just a couple events, whatever, just take the cheapest one, take it when you can. But if you're going to be doing it a little bit more, always go on one airline. Always sign up for the rewards program. Always look for all these things. Use a website like Ebates to book your tickets, something like that will give you money back. Ebates.com is something that does this. You can use it for hotels. I believe you can use it on flights. You can use it on a bunch of different stuff, and you actually get a percentage of money back of what you spend. Obviously not a lot, but hey, it's something, right? You can save a little bit of money here and there doing this. So that's one of these tricks. Now, when you're actually flying, I recommend never checking a bag. Do not check a bag. Most major airlines, unless you're on, out in the Spirit or Legion or whatever the really trash ones are, you get a carry-on item and you get a personal item to go underneath the seat in front of you. So a personal item for me is usually a laptop bag, and that's where I keep my commander decks and that sort of stuff I'm bringing with me. You have a lot of value in your Magic cards. You don't want to check it. You don't want to be forced to gate check it. You want it on you at all times. So zip it up, put it in a bag. But don't check a bag. Get a bag that'll fit into an overhead bin. You don't need much. You can get a nice bag. You don't even have to have a roller bag, just a large sort of backpack type thing. But if you're going to be doing it a lot, you want a sturdy one. So do some research out there to get a good bag. But always live out of your carry-on. It makes things so much easier. So, okay, so when you're actually traveling, do not buy airport food. Do not kill yourself on gas station food. Rather than, if you're going to be in a car for 8 hours, rather than stop every 3 hours at a gas station and go spend $5, $10 on snacks, buy yourself a box of Cheez-Its in the morning, and then you can just get a drink throughout the day. That sort of stuff, like I said, it seems really obvious, but it adds up over the course of a weekend. It's when you're trying to make these things work and you're trying to kind of, make a run in Magic or whatever it is you want to do, it all adds up, and that's kind of what it comes down to. So for the hotel, there is a value to being on site at the hotel, and sometimes you get a room block. But to be honest, the room block rates are not that good of a deal a lot of the times, especially you look at some of the Grand Prix. It's not that much better. So depending on how many people you're going with, this is what I recommend. If you have a big group, get an Airbnb, especially if you're going to be there for the entire tournament, right? If you're planning on getting in on Friday and leaving on Sunday, get an Airbnb if you have, if you can get 5 or 6 people. Rather than get 3 hotel rooms or whatever and be spending $150 a night on a hotel room, well, spend it on an Airbnb. You're going to have a better experience anyways. You have places to play Magic. You have beds. You have couches. It can be fun. But, of course, the logistics of this depend on whether or not. If you drive, it's a lot easier because then it doesn't matter where your Airbnb is. You can drive to the event site. If you're flying, it can be a little more difficult. But I would always recommend using websites like Hotwire and so on. And I always use, when I book hotels, even when I book hotels for work, I usually use the mystery option on a website like Hotwire. The way it works is it kind of will highlight an area of some number of blocks, and you can set some parameters, and it'll give you a pretty low price, and you can choose which which star level or which price range you want to be in, and you can get a really cheap hotel that way. Now the catch, of course, is you don't know what hotel you're going to get, but I've literally been able to narrow it down if you just do a little bit of research and you coordinate, you check, you cross, look at different things, what the area Hotwire is showing you, the hotels in the area that match the star level or whatever, the price. And I've literally stayed in the event site hotel that other people were paying $200 a night for like $80 a night, because I was able to determine that, hey, it was like a 75% likelihood this is where I was going to end up. If you have not booked well in advance, one of the ways you can really get away with this is on the Tuesday or Wednesday before a tournament. That's when people who have planned in advance have already booked it, right? People who are booking at the last minute haven't necessarily got there yet. But if you're looking at the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the weekend before a tournament, that's that time when hotels hit the lowest rate on their rooms. And they have rooms specifically set aside for programs like the Hotwire or Priceline or all those things, even if they say they're sold out on their own website. But in those couple days, now if you get Thursday, Friday, it's going to keep going up, right? Because that's when people are truly in a last minute sort of mode. But that's just an option. Always check into free breakfasts, that sort of thing. Make friends with the person working the desk. Ask them if they have any advice for being in town or dealing with the hotel, that sort of stuff. Okay, so now we're at a Magic tournament. We've made it to the event. Again, bring snacks. Do not get wrecked by convention center food. Not only will it sometimes make you sick, it's usually not going to be very good, and it's always going to be expensive. Bring a water bottle in your bag, refill it regularly. If you want to go off-site, do that. Heck, if you want to order pizza for you and a couple friends and have it delivered to site, honestly, that's going to be cheaper and better than buying the convention center food. It makes a big difference. I get wrecked sometimes on convention center food because I don't plan ahead, and it's just not great. I'd always say walk as much as you can. Don't Uber if you don't have to, or Lyft. Obviously, sometimes you need to, but if you can walk, hey, it's worth getting up 15 minutes earlier and walking to the site, save a little money, and you wake up, get some exercise. So I think I've hit on most of the big things here. A lot of some of the pre-travel considerations you can make. And like I said, it's all completely off the cuff, so if I sound like an idiot, forgive me. But I think that those are some of the ways that you can save money. And once you're at the tournament and you say want to buy and sell cards, and this is a whole another topic, but negotiate, don't get locked into something, don't feel pressured. You can always say no. Be willing to haggle with vendors on prices. But come prepared also, because whatever cheap thing you need is going to be more expensive on site when you need it at the last minute. You have to keep that sort of thing in mind. You're always going to want to keep your bag wrapped around your leg. Do not leave your stuff. Don't trust anyone else to watch your stuff. Take it with you to the bathroom. Take it into the stall with you. Even do not trust other people to watch your cards at tournaments. At night, you want to do dinner. Again, if you're at an Airbnb, you can actually cook for yourself if you really want, or you can split food with people, or do whatever. Going to dinner with people at the end of the night is always one of the most fun parts of an event, win or lose. So I would say that would be the one thing at a tournament that I think I'm usually willing to splurge on. Not go crazy, but enjoy it, right? And you don't have to go somewhere crazy expensive to do that, but don't, unless you're just desperate to save money. Sometimes that experience you can have with friends out at dinner or whatever is worth more than the money you save by going to McDonald's or what have you. Same thing, by the way, applies to hotels. It does to convention centers. Everything's going to be more expensive there. Your drinks in the morning, your Red Bull or your water or whatever, your snacks, your coffee, your dinner at night, your drinks, everything is going to be way more expensive at a hotel than it is elsewhere. So avoid the hotel at all costs. But the one thing you do want to do at hotels is, again, get in the rewards program. Now, none of these seem like a big deal. It's like, oh, I'm just going to go to one, whatever. But if you just go to a couple events a year, it adds up. And the way most of them work is your points, as long as you have some activity within a 12-month period, your points don't go away. So you can actually just bankroll points over several years at these different rewards, and maybe they don't ever end up being much. Maybe you get a free night at a hotel, but hey, sometimes, maybe you have a couple nice trips on airlines, and, is it worth spending $20, $30 more on a flight to to be able to get them all on one airline and save miles, and then you get to turn those miles into a free flight later on. I think that sort of stuff is all very much worth considering. All right, everybody, thank you for watching. I'm Corbin Hosser. This is a Brainbite. This is a Brainbite from Brainstorm Brewery. Leave any other tips you have in the comments. I know this is something, I've kind of talked about what works for me. And I've kind of got, packing in a carry-on down to a science. I was just in Minneapolis for 11 or 12 days for the Pro Tour. I made it all in one laptop bag and one carry-on bag. So it's definitely worth the hassle of having to carry it around or whatever, because checking a bag can really be a disaster. I've had things lost before. I've had to work an event with no clothes. But hey, if you do check a bag and that does happen to you, always, and this goes for anything, whether it's your hotel or your dinner to an extent, sure, or your airline or any of these things, ask for compensation if something happens, and always be polite. Never take it out on the gate agent or the person working the front desk or whatever. It's almost never their fault, and even if it is, you're not going to get anywhere by being angry with them. But you know what? Just say, is there any way I can be compensated for this because XXX? You can reach out on Twitter if you have a bad experience with an airline, if your flight is delayed for mechanical problems. If it's weather related, there's nothing you can do. But if it's a mechanical issue or a routing issue or something that is within the airline's control, you can always get compensation for that. And you can get pretty good compensation, not from the gate agent, but from reaching out to that company on Twitter. They all have social media teams 24 hours around the clock designed to help you. You can call the customer service line the day after you get back. I've gotten so many free airline miles. And I'll shout out American Airlines here. That's what I always fly. I've had some pretty miserable experiences on flights. Things that get delayed for 4 hours, and then some agent tells you something wrong, and then you're delayed on miss your connection. And I just had horrendous travel days. It happens to everybody. There's a GP earlier this year. I didn't even get in until Saturday night because of things that happened. But you know what? I was compensated fairly well for that. And it just, no one wants to travel delays and that sort of negative experiences, but they always happen. To everybody at some point. It's just statistically, it's how it works. But if you keep a level head, don't go crazy. You can at least get something for your time if you go about it the right way. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. We're going to be doing these a little more regularly, actually committing to a schedule here. So you'll see me once a month, once every couple weeks or something. DJ, Jason will be doing these as well. Thank you for watching.